So this talks about logging to Kafka, and there's been a Kafka Appender around for a while, so this isn't very new, in different languages. In this case, I'm going to do a Java Spring Boot app and log to Kafka, and I wanted to do something a little different over kind of just straight logging. So this example was in GitHub, and I actually cloned it off of this person, Alex Wolford's example, and I added a few things in it because I wanted to try and show other ways you could use the logging subsystem in Kafka to capture events. So this system is, we're just going to use SLF4J, we're going to send logging messages. And those log messages are going to go different places based on what's in the message. And the two things we're going to key off of are the logging level, and this was actually in the parent repo. And the other one is a marker. And so in logging, you can add a marker. And in this case, if you add a marker with the name audit, those messages are actually not going to show up in the logs. They're going to end up in a Kafka topic called audit. And their structure is going to be different than the logging structure. So when you log to Kafka using the log4j Kafka Appender, it basically takes all the fields that were in your logging message and makes them fields in Kafka. And so you end up with something that looks like this. Thread, the level, the logger name, however that thing was formatted, and the entire message actually ends up. So if you have like 20 fields worth of data in the logging messages, those are actually just going to be in the message field. So you'll have like JSON strings inside of a JSON field. What I did was something different for the audit. For the audit, I actually set it up where whatever you send that's the only thing that shows up. So in my case, I actually took a map. We created a map of fields, and then we converted that to JSON, and we logged that, and I'll show you that in a minute. So if you look at the way this works, so the two loggers we've got, in this case, every second for 10 seconds, we're going to log a message, and it's just log.info, and we index, jack, and index, right? So the message is super simple. It's just got a string in it because that's combined together. The audit logger generator, on the other hand, and remember, both of these are using the logging subsystem. The only difference between them is one has a marker and one doesn't, and so that puts them in different topics, and it puts them through different formatters, and I'll show you that in a minute. So in this case, we're just going to create a map, and these are the standard attributes, and then I just map this map of things to a JSON string, and then I logged it. So this is the same, it's just a logger.info, and we put an audit marker on it, and then we send the JSON string. So normally that would just be a string inside the message field. In my case, I set up the formatter for the appender different. It just takes this JSON string as provided and makes that the entire message with none of the other metadata. So you don't get the logging time or any of that kind of stuff. You have to add your own timestamps because only the message payload is going to end up in the Kafka topic. And I'll show you how we did that. So we have two topics, audit and logs, and then we have a log marker called audit record. So if audit record is set on the logging message, then we're going to send it to the audit topic. And if it's not set, it'll go to the logger topic, and it'll go to the regular standard out through the other appenders. And the Bootstrap servers, this is basically the Kafka broker server hub. In this case, I'm running this in Docker locally. Running Kafka locally on Docker, and so this is just going to connect to my local Kafka instance. So here we have the Audit Appender. The Audit Appender is Kafka Audit Appender. The format string is take the message as provided and only send that. All right. We didn't use the JSON mapper or anything like that. We just take the message. We assume that it's in JSON format. This doesn't support Avro because the appender doesn't support binaries. And then as long as the audit marker is present, then we will accept this message. Any other logging that shows up at this appender, if it doesn't have the audit log marker, is going to be denied, and it's not going to get put through. We did the inverse for the others. For standard out, we basically said if the audit log marker is there, then deny it. For the Kafka standard out sort of logger, that's actually going to be unmatched deny. So if we see an audit marker in the log message, then none of these appenders will put it out. If there is no audit marker, then all three of these will decide whether to process or not. For general messages, they all go to both the Kafka logging topic and the standard out topic, and then Standard error only picks up warn and above. So that's it. There's this log4j file that's got it configured so that we can send messages 2 different ways to Kafka using the logging subsystem. And what I'm going to do is just run this. So this app runs for 10 seconds. It generates a message a second to the logs and a message a second to the audit topic. And the only thing that's different about the two is anything that got generated will go to the log topic. So all the startup logging and all that kind of stuff will show up in the log topic also. And but none of that will show up in the audit topic because all of that, none of it had the marker in it. So just to give you an idea, so this is already run for 10 seconds. Sorry about that. So we can actually see here anything with colored message went to standard error. So you can see standard error here. And anything, you know what, I should colorize that part instead. And everything else went to standard out. And then anything that went to standard out also went to the Kafka logs topic, and anything that had the marker. So if we come over here and we look, we can see we actually have 2 topics, logs and audit. We would expect there to be 10 messages. We ran this for 10 seconds, generating a message per second. I can make this bigger. You can see the end offset here is 10. And since the topic was brand new, we generated 10 messages. If we were to go back to all topics and go to logs, we'll actually see in this case we have 16 messages. And that's because there were startup and teardown messages and the 10 messages. So I'll do another video where I actually show the output, but basically this all gets logged to strings. And you can see there's no consumption happening here. So I'll do another video that shows that. So what's the net of this? The net of this is if you run this repo, you will end up with a Spring Boot app that does regular logging to the appender, and it also shows you how, to make like a custom JSON payload that would get sent to Kafka. The only other thing in here I was going to show, was in this file. So if you look at the formatters here, I showed you, here we go. So for this one, we just took whatever the payload is, and that's the pattern, no metadata. If you use the JSON layout, which comes bundled with the Kafka Appender, it will actually take all the metadata fields and the message and put them all in as JSON fields in the Kafka topic where they can be parsed. And that's it. I hope that's useful. Bye.